This is the hardware box. You're going to find this inside the desk box, so it'll have anything that you would require to put the unit together. So inside, when you open it up, there's going to be a checklist that will number the parts of the bed, but it'll have all of the parts, like I say, that would be required. So now we're going to talk about how to put the bed together. We're using a cam lock system, so we've got the cam, which is here, and is installed in the flat panel, as well as the post that we screw in. And then when the two join along with our interlocking design, it's very positive. So we've got a couple pieces here down on the ground. We've got the left and right side, as well as the bottom stretcher. So right now Rob has got one of the cams, and he's going to place it on the board, on the bottom stretcher. The really important part here is that the front edge, the leading edge of that cam, is perfectly parallel with the edge of the board. So Rob's taking the cam lock, lining it up using a jig to make sure that it's parallel with the edge of the board, and then you just take a little mallet and hammer it in. When installing the cams, there is no margin for error. If it goes in either to the left a little bit or the right a little bit, the piece will never ever be able to pull tight together and line up properly. It's critical that these are flush with the end of the board. Once you tap this piece in even just a little bit, it's not coming out. Take the time to get it right. If you're having difficulty placing it into the adjoining piece, then possibly the thing that is wrong is that this cam lock is not perfectly parallel with the face. So what you want to do is take it apart and look at it and adjust this accordingly. It's difficult, you can't really pull them out, but you can twist them a little bit by taking a solid surface piece and a mallet and just holding it at the front edge and tapping, and it'll actually spin it a little bit, and you can do the other side to get it to move the other way. So now Rob is going to install the posts. The holes are pre-drilled the whole way, so all he's got to do is make sure that it starts off nice and straight. As it's going in, you drive it down and just make it snug to the face of the board. It's better to use a drill here than an impact driver. If you are using an impact driver, just don't overdrive it. So with all of these different posts that are drilled in here, the ones that aren't posts that are exactly the same size are these holes right here at the front of the side piece. They're actually for the hinge plates because this unit has doors. So it has one on the other side as well. And then when you go, just do not put the posts in these 4 holes. Here we've made up a little jig that each installer will have, and we use this to be able to stand the side piece upright to be able to put the mechanism on. Preferably with 2 people, all you do is you pick it up, line it up into one of the slots here and drop it in, and that'll hold it in place again to enable you to put the mechanism on properly. We have the arm part of the mechanism, so this is the piece that will actually attach to the desk later. And this piece here is going to actually fit in and be bolted onto the side piece. One thing to watch out for is that there is a left and a right of these pieces. They will be labeled. Okay, now when you place the mechanism arm on the side piece, 2 things to watch out for. One is that the pivot point and the jagged edges here are facing towards the bottom of the side piece. So I put the bolts in, and now what we're doing is just line them up and push them through. So Rob's going to put the nuts on them and using a 7/16 driver, tighten them up. What he's doing there is just got his finger on the other side, just making sure that when the nut tightens up, that the head of the bolt is going to be flush. The thing is, you do not want to pull it in too much, so just be cautious when you're tightening them up. So Rob's changed the driver from a nut driver to a number 2 Robertson bit. What you have there is a piston and an anchor point that is attached at the bottom of the side piece. Now we're attaching the anchor point to the bottom of the side piece. This is a little bit easier with two people. One person can hold the unit and the bolt, the other one can put the nut on. And catch his fingers. You can either install this with two people, but there's sometimes that you're doing it alone, and if you are, you use the JIGS here to support it. So I'm going to pick up the piece, just line up these side pieces, place it in, and then the side piece will actually stand by itself. A way to keep the mechanism intact is to slip the wire over top of the arm. Bringing it up, it'll actually lock both components of the mechanism together and keep them out of the way. On the mechanism, where the arm is, the piston must be in front of the arm. If it isn't and it ends up on the other side when you do the installation, you're going to have to take the bed apart to fix it. Now we're going to start to put together the unit. We're going to build it. When you build it from the bottom up, lining up the cam locks with the posts, taking your screwdriver into this hole here, at a little bit of an angle, turn 90 degrees, so about a half a turn. Now what we're going to do is going to bring the top piece, I'm going to put it in our little jig to hold it upright, and we're going to install the LED lights. It's easier to do this at this point, even though it can be done when it's actually installed. It's always easier working off the ground. There's a protective film that protects the lens. What you want to do is you want to remove that at this point. When you're putting the lights in, all you want to do is just feed your wire through. Pull the entire length of the wire through, and on the light, you want this end where it attaches to the light to be towards the back of the unit or the bottom of this piece. That way it's less visible from the top, or not visible. On the light, there's the little metal tabs. There's two of them. They will actually friction fit this into the opening. So when you put it in, what you want to do is line it up to be straight and then press both in at once. Okay, as you notice, the lights are going to be installed to the front edge of the panel, which is the front edge of the unit. If you see here where the wire is coming out is the top side of this piece. There's no posts, there's no groove, it's just a flat panel with the two holes. If you see this side where the lights are attached, that's where we have the cams, the posts, and the groove for the back, so it'll be the underside. This groove on the underside of the top lines up with grooves on the side that hold the back panel in place. Next is going in the back panel. It's a 1/4 inch black material, and there's the 4 holes here, and those will actually screw into the back of the supports, the center supports. They align with the back. Okay, now I'm placing the back on the top. I'm going to slide it into the groove on the far side. And what I do here is I'm just going to bend it slightly to fit it into the groove on my side and push it in. Done. Now with these holes, there's still a little bit of flex here. One of the final steps is to put some screws in to line it up. But we want to do that after the top is on to make sure that everything is lined up properly. Now we're going to install the top with the lights. So we just turn it the right way. What we want to do is be careful that the cords are up and out of the way, not going to get pinched anywhere. The other thing is there are posts on top of these pieces that we do not want to run it over and scratch the top. So we want to just make sure that it's lifted the entire way, and then we can place it down to do our proper alignment. And what you want to do is make sure that the divider, that the post is actually on the right side of the cam lock when we go to place it in. And there we go. Okay, you're lining the back to the groove. It's in the grooves on the side already, but you need it in the groove on the top. So you want to press where the two side pieces are, where your drilling is, which will allow that to fall right into the groove, and it's good. Now with the bottom portion of the cam lock installed, Rob's going to, with the center dividers, tighten those up, put them in. That's important because now it actually gives a definite place between top and bottom of the unit, and we can screw the back in at this point. Notice he also at that time dropped the cord to the back of the unit. And that makes it easier to plug into your transformer with all the wires readily available. These are the lock-in stops. They're installed on either of the large side panels, and there's a left and a right. So you just drop it into place using the same cam lock system. Now we're getting the switch ready to install. Just slip the end through the hole, and there's going to be a hole at the top. Okay, pull it all the way through, and it's friction fit, so just press it in place, and it's good to go. Once the wire is actually fed through the front molding, what you do is and it's ready to plug into the transformer. Now we're getting ready to put the transformer in place. After the sticky portion's removed, it's obvious where the AC cable goes. For the others, the wires are color-coded, so the lights go in the orange receptacles. And the switch goes in the black one along one of the long sides. Once this is complete, the transformer comes with a piece of double-sided tape and a little area to apply it to. Now you're ready to put it onto the top of the back, keeping in mind you want to have it either on one or the other side of the unit to make it easier to hide the wire coming down the side. Do not plug this unit into the wall until all of these steps have been completed. It's critical because you can actually blow the transformer if it's done in the wrong order. Now with the cable management, it's a good idea to save the twist ties that are in the packaging with all the wiring. So what you can do there is wrap them up at the back, which allows you to place that wiring on so that it can still be tight to the wall. For optimum cable management, you can actually run the wires down through the top hole. After we install the top and lock in the center support pieces, we can go to the back of the unit and screw the back into the center support pieces on either side. Here we have a wire management cable with double-sided tape attached to it. So you remove the double-sided tape, and again, the tape is pressure activated, lining it up with the end of the switch and the center of the hole at the back, and then you push upwards to get the tape to lock into place. Then place the wire inside the wire management tray and lock that just by pressing it. Getting ready to install the hinges in the door, you take a screwdriver and pop the lever up, which then unlocks the hinge and allows you to drop it into place, fitting the cup and the posts in, and then just pressing down, and that hinge is installed. Just repeat it with the other one. So he's lifting up the plate, dropping it in place, making sure that it's fully seated, and then press down tight. So we're going to install the hinges or the doors on the unit. By doing that, what we want to do is this little notch here will actually fit onto the hinge plate. There are some rails on the hinge plate, so you want the back end of this unit hitting first, and then you can snap that and it'll be guided by the rails into position. You have the rails on the mounting plate, but there's also a little pin top and bottom, and that's where the notch on the hinge, and that should be where you connect first, before you drop the hinge plate down. So now what I'm going to do is I'm tipping it up a little bit. I'm locked into that little notch, press, and I'm in. Now I'm going to do the same thing with the bottom, and press, and you're in. Now you can close the door. Some adjustment may be needed, and right now it depends on how the unit's sitting. And to do that, there's multiple adjustments here. These screws here will actually move the door in and out, which would, in effect, move it up or down at the far end. This screw here will move the door to the left or the right of the unit by turning one way or the other. This screw in here, if you turn right or left, will move the hinge up or down if you need to have that happen. But you need to move both hinges, so you might have to move this one, go down, and then move that one up as well to get the door to sit in the proper spot. The last screw that you access is at the very back, and what that does is that it moves the hinge out. So if the door is too close to the unit, you can actually move it away from the unit or closer to the unit depending on what you need. So multi-directional adjustment on these hinges. Now we have the body of the unit in place and against the wall, and what we've done here is we've laid out the bed frame just for a visual reference so that you know how things are going to go together. You may not do it like this every time, but for the first time you may want to lay it out like this as it's going to go into the bed, into the body, so that you can understand how it's going. So now we'll put it together. We've got the two end pieces, which are the headboard, footboard, and the two rails. The rails are identical. If you're doing this by yourself, what you want to do is pick it up, look over the top, and I'm going to line up the cams with the posts, slip it in at a little bit of an angle and stand it up, and then just press down and make sure that it's seated. Make sure that you're doing this carefully because there is a possibility of damaging the edges. And I'm going to tighten up that cam lock, and the piece is in place. All right, now we have one of the bed rails with the bed panels installed in that side, and we're going to put on the other side. So I just want to make sure that everything is the way it should be. I'm going to line up my groove with my cam lock, and then I'm just going to go from one end, and I'm going to, there we go. And as you go, you want to make sure that you keep your bed panel in the slot. One part that'll might be a little bit off is the joint in the panel in the middle. Just once that gets in, then everything falls into place. Once you have this rail in place, it's best to take a mallet and tap. And what you want to do is make sure that everything is properly seated so that the edge of this panel is in at the bottom of the groove. And if you see any gaps, then that means you're not tight. And I'm tight now. So I'm going to finish off by tightening up the cam locks, and then this portion is complete, and we'll move to the headboard footboard. The next step, we want to lift the rails with the bed slats or the bed panels up so that we can put the headboard footboard on. So we're going to do one end at a time, lifting it up. Now it's elevated a little bit, which will allow the post to go in. So we're taking the headboard footboard, we're going to drop the posts into the cam locks on the bottom and align the groove, and then once that's aligned, just tap it. So you tap the groove. You might need to adjust the rail a little bit to lock it into the cam lock on this outside edge, and then you tighten up all the cams. Make sure that you remember there are two cam locks on this side as well. So we've taken the shims out of the other side. Now we're just going to lift this side up, place them underneath, and that'll allow us to put the headboard on here. And we're now going to repeat on the other side. Once you have the body of the unit in place where you want to leave it, what you want to do is set up your mechanism just so that it makes it much easier to install onto the desk when you're ready for that point. So what we're doing here is making sure that that sleeve is seated into the notch here. If you do need it stiffer, you can move it down one notch. I wouldn't go beyond that point, but there is adjustment here, and even that little bit will make a tremendous amount of difference. And by stiffer, I mean that if you have extra weight on the desk, that will actually be able to handle it much better, and the piston will actually help you do the work. So he's removing the wire. All that wire there is for just to keep that piece with the piston during transportation and setup. Position the desktop close to the frame like you see here. On top are all the elements that you need. They're the bushings, the screws, the Allen wrench, and the triangular plates. We take the bushings, slide them into place. There's 2 per side. With the triangular plate, there's an outside, so it's countersunk, and on the inside, you've got a little dimple there. So when you put the plate on, the highest part of this piece has to be towards the back of the desk or it won't operate. Now holding the plate in place, we can start the screws. Don't tighten them up all the way, just leave them a little bit loose. So repeat on the other side once that's done, so that you have 2 plates per side. Once this is complete, do the same thing on the other side of the desk. So now take the 3rd bushing from that side, you take it and you insert it here on the bed, and what that does is that allows the bed to lock into the desk with using that triangle. It's very important at this point to make sure that the pin is pulled completely and not protruding from the other side, which can cause damage if it's lifted up like that. Okay, now we're ready to put the bed on top of the desk. What we want to do before that, the body's in place, the desk is actually equal distance from the side and parallel to the back to make sure that we're not going to be hitting the sides when we put the desk on. So with 2 people, we're just going to tip it a little bit and then lift the desk. And we're lining up. The lowermost part of the bed will rest on top of that desk. And very carefully, once it's on there, then we can move it forward to line up with the triangle. Now we're going to attach the triangular piece to the bed. So he's going to add in the top screw on both sides and then tighten up all 6 screws per side. They have to be snug. Do not over tighten these. The reason for that is that if it's over tightened, you can get some squeaking. To do the inside is a little bit clumsy. What you can do though is you could tighten those up completely on the inside and leave the outside loose to put it in so that you only have 1 to tighten up. So here we have the main pivot point bushing, bolt, and sleeve. And what we're going to do with this is we're going to attach it through the bed into the mechanical arm frame, the mechanism. This bolt will allow the bed to pivot up and down. Okay, and it's easiest with 2 people, and what you want to do is slide the bed into position so that the hole is even with the large part of the mechanism. And now we're there. So feed the bolt through. You might have to adjust a little bit up and down to find the right spot. This bolt can be tightened as hard as you can do it. And repeat on the other side. So with the bed panel plate, it joins the 2 separate panels together. There's a number of screws that need to go in The way to line this up is that there's a notch at the top and the bottom, and what you do is you put that notch in the center of the joint of the two panels, which gives you alignment. Install that plate when you have the bed completely together in the upright position. Now we're ready to lift the bed up into place and then bring the mechanism and attach it to the desk, which then the bed will be operational. The one thing, again, time to check to make sure that those pins are in on either side, again, because it can cause damage to the side piece here if it isn't. So it's got to be pushed in. So we lift the bed up into place. Now we pop those pins in on either side, which holds it in position, and we're ready to pull the mechanism down into place. For this, we have a special mechanical piece. If you don't have that, you can use a piece of strapping or a little piece of rope to go in there, hook it on the mechanism, just over about 3 inches down from the top. So I've got the strap around the mechanism arm. When I pull it down, I want to make sure that it's going to be a little tight going around that protruding piece, and then down and over, and it's hooked to the desk. Okay, now the grommet can go in the desk. So I'm going to put the Velcro strap on, and what you want to do is there's preset holes on either end of the bed, and what you want to do is install the strapping at the lower leg area. So if your head is at that side, I will be installing the strapping at this side. What we want to do is take the screws with the washers, feed it through, and I'm just going to screw this down through the preset. So we've got, and I put it in the preset hole, and now I'm going to tighten it up. Repeat it on the other side. So I'm getting it lined up. I've made sure that this is the direction that the Velcro needs to be, and I just put it in that preset hole and tighten it up, just keeping it straight. So then what happens is it's inset. It goes over the mattress, but still allows you to put a fitted sheet or a mattress cover on there, and these stay on all the time. Make sure the hook part is facing up, not this fuzzy side, and that will not damage the mattress. So now we're going to get ready to put the handle on. There are preset holes here, pre-drilled. They're not drilled all the way through. There's probably another 1/8 of an inch that you have to go through. They're on the top and bottom so that the panels can be used. You can't really put them in the wrong way as long as the edged pieces are together. So I'm taking a backer piece to make sure there's no breakout, keeping my fingers out of the way on the bottom, and I'm going to drill through. I'm actually going to turn it to a higher speed so that there's less chance. And I'm through. I'm going to repeat the same thing on this side, and through. I'm going to drop the handle screws into place. I'm going to hold the handle from the underside and just make sure it's nice and snug. Okay, now we're ready to throw the mattress into the bed and put the Velcro strap on. Slide it into place. You just want to make sure that the Velcro strap isn't twisted, and then it joins together and locks it, and now we can put the bed up, lock it in place, and it's ready to use.